Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, broadcasting from my hidden base at the center of the Earth, and I am here to share what my sources have told me about the latest, and some are saying worst, perversion of Star Trek yet, Section 31. That's right, my friends. Kurtzman is making a movie about Section 31, the perfect antithesis of every single thing that Gene Roddenberry stood for and hoped Star Trek would be. Section 31 was first mentioned in Deep Space Nine, a kind of Federation CIA that handled dirty work needed for the greater good. And yet, under Secret Hideout, Section 31 is a borderline evil organization led by the ruthless, murderous tyrant Empress from an alternate universe, a loathsome and despicable piece of shit who is presented to the audience as a lovable, wisecracking heroine by Kurtzman and crew. That's right, folks. Section 31 stars a character who used to kill Calpian slaves in order to eat their tongues as a delicacy, or their sensing death tendrils that would get all agitated upon the approach of death. I forget and don't care enough to look it up. The point is, in this sick, twisted, disgusting parody of Star Trek, the closest thing we get to a hero is someone who would kill Saru and eat his tendrils in aspic as a tasty treat. Welcome to Section 31, folks. I swear, even remembering these grotesque details makes me feel soiled. And yet, it must be said because it's important to remind you of exactly who is the star of Section 31. Now, maybe this is why the cast of Section 31 and others in the production are reportedly terrified about how badly this thing is going to bomb. Over the last few weeks, I've received various updates from a longtime source telling me what's allegedly happening with Section 31 behind the scenes, all of which I will be presenting as rumors in this video, but I must say, something happened in the last few days that leads me to lend more credence to these rumors, something surprisingly public that certainly raised some eyebrows here at the center of the Earth. So before I tell you what my sources have told me about Section 31, let's look at the very public disclosures from Rob Kazinsky, an actor who appears in this thing. In an article titled, "It's Not the Trek People Want," Star Trek Section 31 actor shares fears about how the new movie will be received. Screen Rant writes the following, doing their best to spin this in the best way possible. Quote, while speaking with SFX magazine via Trek Movie, Kazinsky explains that he is worried about Section 31's reception because it is not more of Star Trek The Next Generation. He discusses how fans always want more of The Next Generation, even though The Next Generation was not well received when it first started. Kazinsky emphasizes that Section 31 does not feel like The Next Generation, file that under the no shit department, and feels different from any Star Trek story that has come before. Check out his comments below. Quote, I'm terrified of how it's going to be received because it's not the Trek people want. The Trek that people want, the Trek that we all want, is just 1,000 more episodes of TNG. Well, that's not true. I prefer the original series, but never mind. Everyone's always furious that they're not getting more TNG, whilst at the same time, when TNG came out, everybody hated it. So this is going to come along and it's not going to feel like any Trek that they've ever seen, unquote.
And what else is new? Nothing. The Secret Hideout is done. Not one single episode, not one single scene has felt like Star Trek. That isn't news. Shit. That's like telling people on the radio commuters this morning discovered the gravity is still in effect. Not really all that surprising, eh?
Not surprising at all, Harvey Cthulhu. But I think there might be an added dimension to this story, one we'll get to in a minute. But before we do, let me share what my sources have told me about Section 31 and how it's allegedly viewed behind the scenes. At this point, I must state that what I'm about to share with you is information provided to me by a longtime source, but since I cannot personally confirm any of this, I'm presenting the following as unverified rumor, and I ask you to please take it with a grain of salt. So this source is in contact with an insider with knowledge of the production, and according to this insider, Skydance is extremely displeased with the direction Star Trek has taken and wants a complete reset. That said, this source in discussing Skydance's alleged role into canonizing STD added, quote, "When people see Section 31, there's going to be an effing riot anyway. Apparently, Section 31 is so bad, Yoe is concerned it's going to affect her career," unquote. And then the following detailed assessment of Section 31 was sent to me by this source, quote, "By the way, I know someone who's seen Section 31, says it's absolute dog shit. Took them 3 days to watch it. It's basically a pilot retrofitted into a movie really badly, and it's unwatchable." And then they shared the following first-hand exchange with me verbatim from the witness, quote, "Section 31, utter trash. That someone got paid for that script is obscene. It's horrible, lazy, cliched, dumb. It feels like the first 2 episodes of what would have been the series they were planning originally. My guess is that they made it, realized how bad it was, released it as this to cut their losses. It tries to be funny. It's not," unquote. Now again, take this with a grain of salt, folks. I haven't seen Section 31 yet, and I will be reviewing it myself when the time comes. This is merely one opinion, and they may be wrong about it. But since I personally haven't seen even one decent episode of New Trek since it started in 2017, I think it's entirely possible this review is credible, especially given the leaked warning from actor Rob Kazinsky saying this is not the Trek people want.
Which in and of itself should be agitating shareholders of the company if they know what kind of Star Trek people want, and they're deliberately not giving people the Star Trek that they want. Shit, that seems like some kind of corporate negligence, doesn't it?
It certainly does to me. I'm not a corporate guy, but if I was an investor, that comment would, it would upset me very much. I find it extremely interesting this interview was ever given, since generally actors are contractually barred from putting out anything negative about the projects they work on. This leads me to believe this interview was officially sanctioned behind the scenes and someone wanted to get this warning out. The question is, what was the motive? One possible motive is damage control. If it's meant as damage control, that means Paramount knows or strongly suspects this thing is a real stinker, and they want to try and cushion the blow and spin the coming rejection, trying to say, hey, people hated The Next Generation originally, but it was great, and they finally came around in the end. The problem with that, of course, is New Trek doesn't even faintly resemble Star Trek in any iteration sanctioned by Gene Roddenberry, whereas The Next Generation still held the same positive values of Roddenberry's Federation and stood for the same things, as opposed to severed baby heads, plucked out eyeballs, and sonar in space. The other possibility is perhaps Skydance wanted this story leaked out, reasoning that if Section 31 bombs badly enough, it hastens the end of this misbegotten perversion of Star Trek and allows the healing for the franchise to begin. Either way, my friends, despite what it will do to my mental and emotional health, I will be reviewing Section 31 on this channel when it releases.
As much as the mere sound of your voice provokes a deep fury within me, I pity you, Doomcock. That punishment sends a chill down my spine. Or would, if I had one.
Be afraid, O Skull of Calderon. Be very afraid. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha. ha ha ha